Welcome to Life Mastery Radio with Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey, the show that dives into the science of higher consciousness with inspiring topics such as abundance, intention, health, manifestation, love, and transformation. Join Todd, Jackie, and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific. Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery. It's all right here with stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Now, here's your hosts, Todd and Jackie.
Hey, it's another groovy day, and most of you know that's because I make it that way, and it's Life Mastery Radio Day, the highlight of my week. I know Jackie enjoys it too. Her and I get together, and we bring you some of the best-selling authors, top-notch leaders, all on the cutting edge of their own becoming. But guess what? They're there on that edge to push you off your edge of your own becoming with great thoughts and ideas for you to use on your very own life mastery journey. As always, I have my co-host with me today, Jackie Bailey. Hi, Jackie. How are things in the Speak, Feed, Lead project?
They're going great. And we actually have a workshop tonight, not so much for the kiddos, but for the adultos.
Adultos.
We've got, I've partnered with a couple of other speakers, Justine Reese and Benny Mobley, who are experts in their fields. And we're putting a workshop together tonight that's called Reinvent You at Any Age. So anyone who's maybe transitioning between careers or looking for work again after being out of the workforce for a while, or even retiring and thinking, how can I make an impact in the world? This is going to be a great workshop for you. Maybe even someone who's looking for a side hustle. And Justine Reese is a voiceover talent. Benny Mobley is a personal trainer, so we can get you physically fit and works on mindset as well. And then, of course, I can help you to develop your own unique keynote speech and have it in your pocket for opportunities that come. So
that's tonight. At what time?
It's 4:30 p.m. Pacific. And be happy to put information into our Life Mastery Radio web or Facebook page, and everyone can take a look.
Yeah, so check out our Facebook page, Life Mastery Radio with Todd and Jackie. And Jackie will put a link up there if you're interested. You should be interested. Check it out. It'd be a fun time. I think both those people have been our guests, or just Benny?
I don't think either one of them have.
Benny Mogul hasn't been on the show. Interesting. So. Okay. We got to get him on the show. I want to remind our listeners that today's show page is at www.lifemasteryradio.com. You can go there, and any links that we talk about with our guests today, we're talking about something really cool. Everybody has it. Everybody uses it. Everybody has the ability to distribute it. But the idea is to hang on to it. So I think we're going to be talking about that. But any links that we talk about that with our guests will be on today's show page. You can sign up for our newsletter while you're there. Jackie produces a newsletter every week. It highlights who's been on the show, who's coming on the show, and a blog post about the show that we just did. So you can stay informed with all things life mastery. Both of our books are there. You can follow the links to Amazon. And am I forgetting anything, Jackie?
No, sounds pretty complete, I think.
Okay, let's get ready for the really big show. And today is Jackie's guest, so that means she has the introduction. Take it away, Jackie.
Well, it was so funny because a few weeks ago, I was speaking in Los Angeles at the Best You Expo, and I had a booth. And I'm standing there at my booth, and I see this guy walking toward me. And unlike myself, because I usually can't remember people's names in the moment, but Rennie came right to my mind. I said, Rennie! I don't think he remembered who I was in the moment. But it was great to see him, and I thought, this is a sign that he needs to come back on the show. He's got a message that people need to hear. So it is delightful to have him back here with you. So let me tell you a little bit about Rennie Gabriel. He, after 2 divorces and a business failure, went from broke at age 50 to a multi-millionaire. And this was after learning 3 secrets of the wealthy, despite the fact that he didn't do very well in high school math. In fact, he failed, I think. But Rennie now donates 100% of profits from his online programs to a charity that's called Shelter to Soldier, which trains rescue dogs for wounded military warriors. Yay. And he feels that 90% of the population has been taught nothing about handling money effectively, including CPAs, who we pay to help us with our own money, and financial advisors. So with Rennie's programs, you learn these 3 secrets that he's learned of the wealthy, and you learn to have others gladly pay off your debt. Hello. And you learn 5 things that keep you broke. Okay, those are good to know. So Rennie is a TEDx speaker, and his award-winning best-selling book is titled Wealth on Any Income. It's been translated now into 8 languages. So he is really spreading his message out into the world, and we are delighted to have him with us today. Welcome, Rennie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jackie. What a beautiful introduction. Yeah, it makes me blush.
I know. Sometimes it's hard to listen to your own ego being boosted, right?
Yeah.
But then again, you go, hey, I have accomplished some pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah. I think we all need to be reminded sometimes.
Absolutely. Well, you're making a huge impact in the world. So
Yeah. And in the introduction, you talked about some of the challenges or Jackie talked about some of the challenges that you went through. But what is it about money that I mean, people make it, they spend it. It seems to run through most people's hands and fingers. And I think I heard earlier today, I was watching some of your podcasts, we're really not taught how to handle it. Maybe expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to understand it when you look at how education around important items show up or don't show up. And if you look at the situation, as Jackie said, 90% of the people have not been taught how to handle money effectively, powerfully, even adequately. And the reason for that is, if you look at what do parents teach in the home, well, parents can't teach what they don't know. If they learn by trial and error, I mean, that's the best they can do.
right.
If you look at the school system, they don't teach anything about financial education. I was reading that recently, as recently as like last year, 11 states. Now in the United States, we have 50. So far, 11 of them are now requiring some level of financial education before you graduate high school.
Wow.
Now, I don't know what it includes, but I doubt that it's adequate.
It's probably how to balance a checkbook, right?
Well, there isn't even
no one uses anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There isn't even that requirement. I mean, it's a piece of plastic, but you still got to understand reconciliation, right, Rennie? I mean, because it's like having a bucket of water, and if that bucket has holes in it, you don't really know where your money's going.
Exactly. But Todd, here's the difficulty. When I had a checking account, I don't know, I was probably about 30 years of age, and I realized I'd never reconciled it, and I wanted to know how to do it. So I went to the bank and asked an employee at the bank, I don't know if it was the teller or the new accounts person. I said, I get these statements from the bank every month, and it says to, balance my checking account, follow these instructions. I tried to do it, but I couldn't figure it out. Remember, I failed high school math. And the woman at the bank, the employee whose job it was to help people with their finances, said, I'd like to help you, but I also don't know how to do it.
Oh, wow.
So you're going to the bank that provides this stuff. Those employees don't know how. You turn to certified financial planners. It's not taught as a part of their education. You go to certified public accountants. It's not in their program either. So you talk about balancing a checkbook.
Wow.
even if you do it today, hardly, I have one tenant out of 27 families that writes a check to pay their rent. No one's even doing that anymore.
Yeah, they go online. Yeah.
You know, it just reminds me of what's going on today, because we just had a huge bank in California.
Mm-hmm. Two
Right.
of them. Oh, well, two banks in California failed.
And none of the staff had any banking experience, yet they were in control of billions and billions of dollars. How does that happen? I mean, that just goes to show you, our mentality in today's society.
Yeah. It's pervasive. So anyone who feels guilty that they don't know how to do a budget, or don't know how to complete a balance sheet, or don't know what to do for a cash flow statement should not feel guilty, because you don't learn this by osmosis. It doesn't happen that way. And it took me years of searching to find the solutions. And when I did, and I started teaching it, I realized the same questions came up over and over and over again, which is why I wrote the book. I'm laughing now as I thought about the process. I'd been doing workshops for 10 years, teaching people these basic foundational skills. And I said, you know what, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to put all the questions I've been asked in the book. I'll have all the answers, and then people won't have to come to the workshops anymore. And they won't have to bother me with their questions. I was so naive, because that is not how books work.
No.
People have to buy them and read them, right?
Well, yes. And then the people who read them want more, and they go to the author to say, oh, I love what you had to say. Teach me more. And it's like, no, that's not why I wrote it.
Yeah, it's all in there. No, that's funny.
Well, what is that? So you have a 3-step process, and I think we already talked about it, but let's just highlight it a little bit, because I think the first step, or the first part of that process, is awareness, right? I mean, becoming where is the money going?
Well, yeah, that's actually the second step.
Oh,
yeah, but you're right. The first step is awareness. I call it mindset. I call it attitude, because when I looked at it, and I wrote a second book, Attitudes of the Wealthy, and it has like 32 ways that wealthy people think and act. It's their attitudes. Ordinary people don't understand or aren't even aware of. And, I guess if I were able to institute all 32, I'd be a billionaire instead of a millionaire. But the point is, it's attitude. And that's the first of the 3 steps, is attitude. And I'll give you some examples. One of the things is that CPAs, other financial gurus, tell people they should pay off debt before they begin to invest.
right.
And as far as I can see, that is the absolute worst possible advice anyone could be given. Yes, they need to know how not to create more debt. But the point is, if they focus on paying off debt, they're on a roller coaster where they're paying off the debt because that's their focus. Something goes wrong, the car breaks down, a water heater bursts, and then they have to go back to the credit card again. And they're on this roller coaster where paying off debt, it comes back, paying off debt, it comes back. And they get to age 60, 65, 70, and now they've paid off their debt, but they have nothing else.
Yeah.
So, Todd, let me ask you a question. You ready, Todd, to be put on the spot?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Turn it on me.
All right. So let's say you have no debt. You have no car loans, you have no mortgages, you have no credit card debts, you have no debt anywhere. Now, that's all I'm saying is your situation, that you have no debt. Would you be able to stop working, and would you have financial freedom?
No, I'd have to have some income. There has to be some stream of income in order to pay the light bill.
Yeah. Or what if you wanted to eat and buy food? So you're absolutely right. Without the income, you still have to work. So either you're working or you have your money working for you. And the only way that can happen is that as you're earning money, you're setting it aside to create an income that will pay you later. And if you take that, I'll give you the best example for me. I'm age 50, I'm broke, but I'm at least earning a living. I'm earning $5,000 a month. And so what did I do? I used a concept that's 5,000 years old, another concept the wealthy are aware of, another attitude that's crucial. I treated myself like I deserved to own some of this money I'm earning, and I set aside 10%.
Yeah.
So even if I was short in paying my bills, I still set aside $500 a month. Now, within 3 years, okay, I'm age 53, I've got a whopping $18,000. But I'm married for the third time, my best, most wonderful, fantastic, have her till I die wife. We've been together 25 years now. Anyway.
Congratulations.
She knows this realtor and he says, Rennie, there's this triplex for sale. It's a fabulous investment. You ought to get it. I'm sorry, I'm in Los Angeles. $18,000 does not buy any real estate. So my wife says, well, he says this is such a good deal. I'll come up with $18,000. Well, now we have half the down payment. The realtor says, this is such a good deal. I'll come up with $36,000. The three of us will buy it together, which is what we did. Now, had I taken that $18,000 and pay off the credit card debt from when I was broke at age 50, I would not have had the money to invest in this 3-unit property.
Yep.
Well, within 5 years, my $18,000 was worth $125,000. And what I saw is, here's another attitude of the wealthy. They use debt to create wealth. I borrowed more money to make down payments on apartment buildings with my wife and the realtor. And within 5 years, we had 47 more units.
Wow.
So I went from broke 5 years earlier, except for my $18,000, to now having 50 apartment units with my wife and this realtor, and having the level of income, or if I chose to work or I chose not to work, I had a choice. So what I'm getting at is I used that money to create wealth, not pay off debt.
Right. You made the money work for it. So I guess my question, something my dad always told me is you can never go wrong with real estate. If you hold on to it long enough, you can never go wrong. Is that your number one go-to?
I would say you can go wrong. You can buy in the wrong area. You could buy the wrong kind of real estate. So you can, but yeah, if you hold it long enough, you'll probably be okay. I mean, there's even a concept called land banking, where you buy raw land that's in the direction of a city that's growing, and eventually some developer will buy it from you and you'll have a profit. Right. So, I mean, there's all sorts of ways of doing real estate, from mini storage facilities to apartment buildings, to office buildings, to Delaware statutory trusts and real estate investment trusts, and on and on. I'm running out of breath trying to list it all.
But keep it simple, right? I think that would be your message, is keep it simple and look for that good deal. Yeah.
And there are always good deals, even in times where it seems like
best deals, all right? During rough times, if you've got some cash, right? That's when it is time to look for something, because that's when the good deals are, if you've got the cash.
You're absolutely right, Todd. It was in the 90s, somewhere in the 90s, we had a horrible earthquake in the Los Angeles, Southern California area. And many apartment buildings were ruined. And the people who had cash bought those buildings, refurbished them, and had tremendous increases in value because the prices were so depressed due to the earthquake. So you're right on track, Todd.
Wow.
That's fast. So you said something that was curious. You said that this idea has been around for 5,000 years. Would that be a little book called The Richest Man in Babylon?
Yes, it would be that little book that translated
Uniform text.
shucks. When you chisel in stone and tablets,
Uniform.
clay tablets.
Yeah.
They discovered the clay tablets that could literally trace someone's life that occurred 5,000 years ago. And it was like working a 12-step program. The guy got into debt. He fled the city, decided to come back and make amends and clean up his act. And that's what it was. The basic principle was
10%.
treat yourself like you matter. Keep 10% of what you're earning, and that will build your future. And yes, it's 5,000 years old. That was the cornerstone of my creating a multi-million-dollar net worth.
It's a cool little book, and it's still available, and it's real small, and it will change your whole outlook. And so will Rennie's book. Get a hold of Rennie's book too, because I'm sure it goes right along that same thought process.
Absolutely. I talk about that book in my book, and it was written about 100 years ago. So you got to figure two things. Based on concepts 5,000 years old, it was written 100 years ago. It still works.
It always will. It's just the way.
Well, Rennie, if you're giving yourself 10% of everything that you earn, I'm assuming you mean saving it or putting it somewhere into an account that you don't touch. So are there different ways to save, or should you invest some of that early on before you start saving it? I mean, so what do you do with that 10%?
Two things. One of them is, you're right. You're setting it aside somewhere where you're going to keep it, and it'll be spent on nothing. You're not going to use it to repair the car or anything else. It is helpful to set aside another 10% so you can spend later on the things you didn't know were going to show up. And so as a rule of thumb, if anyone lives on 80% of what they earn, it'll all work out. So 10% to keep forever, 10% to spend later, and 80% to just live on and buy the groceries and pay the rent and make the car payments and buy clothing for the children and all the rest of that stuff.
So what do you look for then in a savings program that's going to give you a good return?
Well, take into consideration my situation of $500 a month. There's not much you can do when all you've got to invest is $500. So what I did was I bought some individual stocks of companies that I thought would be around even when I turned to dust, like, General Electric or General Motors. And they were the companies that make up the Dow Industrial 30. I figured they're going to be around. Well, this happened to be when the dot-com bubble burst. And other people who lost 30% of their portfolios because of their aggressive investing, I'm ahead by 1%. Okay, it's not what I was shooting for, but at least still had all the money.
Right.
So when the real estate opportunity came available, I just sold all the stocks. It turned into be about my $18,000, and I popped it into the real estate.
Got it. Interesting.
So it takes a little bit more than, your few $100s a month. You could put it into a mutual fund as long as it's not something really aggressive. You can put it into a savings account. You could buy some individual stocks with it of major companies. So those are some of the things you could do.
Okay, cool. Now in the first part of your book, you talk about a lot of I don't want to call them the myths, but there are beliefs that we have about money that may not necessarily be good beliefs to have, right? So what are some of those you'd like to mention today that you know are pretty typical of people?
Well, I think the first one that we've already talked about is the idea that you have to focus on paying off debt before you begin to invest. And like I said, that's the most damaging.
Yeah, okay.
A lot of people think the more money they earn, the more wealth they'll create. But it doesn't matter if you're overspending just because you earn more income. And I went through this cycle for decades. I started off as a school teacher, earning $5,500 per year.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So not a lot of money. So I left teaching school and went into sales and doubled my income.
Hmm.
And when I was teaching, I was short $100 a month. So I figured, oh my gosh, I've doubled my income. Now I was short $200 a month.
Buy more stuff, right?
Say that again, Todd.
Buy more stuff, right? The more you make, the more stuff I can buy.
You're right. You know, you're going to have a better lifestyle, whatever. When I passed 100,000 a year of income, now I'm $2,000 a month short. Earning more money was not the key.
Right.
Mhm.
Properly handling what I was earning was the key. And the first thing I looked at, now this is a little bit embarrassing, but where I discovered how to handle the money effectively and do a budget was in a program called Debtors Anonymous.
Really?
It's a 12-step program for people who don't know how to handle money. And
Wow.
that's where I learned how to determine what's coming in and where I'm spending it and how to properly allocate it. And I not only wiped out that $2,000 a month shortfall, my income jumped from 102,000 to 150,000. It was like the universe was saying, Rennie, you finally figured out how to handle money. Here, you can have more of it.
Give some examples of that. What are some examples of, maybe not what you found, but you obviously worked with a lot of people. What is their shock and awe when they discover, wow, look at all that money going out the window? What were they spending it on? What kinds of things are we talking about?
We're not talking about things as much as the categories. And I'll give you an example. When I created the cash flow form that I have my clients use, I have a lot of areas where I have little stars that show the items that don't show up on a monthly basis. You know what your rent is going to show up. You know, you're buying food, on a regular basis, but people don't plan for things like the registration fees on their automobile, or that the car will break down, or the property taxes come due twice a year, or maybe they have a life insurance premium that's annual, and there's no monthly plan to have the money available for that when it shows up. And that's what I saw. People, a good example, I had a legal secretary. She came to me because she had refinanced her house, paid off all her credit cards, and then a year later, she got the credit card debt again. So we went through this cash flow form, and she wasn't setting aside money to buy clothing. She wasn't setting aside for any repairs on her car, or just maintenance, buying new tires or whatever it was. And so when these expenses came up, she had to go to her credit card. And she didn't realize about expenses that don't show up monthly. And I just had this conversation with the young girl that we're helping with our GoFundMe. She said, I'm really good with my money. I know where it goes. I plan, I do this, I do that. Her young daughter, who passed away at age 2, she had no plan to pay for her medications and medicines and things like that the little girl needed, that she was buying at the pharmacy. That wasn't a part of her budget. But she had to spend the money anyway.
Right.
She only looked at what her rent was, what her food was, what her car payment was, what her gasoline was, the things that she knew showed up every month. But she wasn't planning for medications. So people who even think they're good at it miss huge things.
Right. Yeah.
So is that form in your book then? Your cash flow?
Yes.
It is in your book, and people can get your book and then start to take a look at where those holes are at in their bucket.
Absolutely right. Now, something important, because I donate 100% of the profits from my books, from my programs and things like that to charity, not only Shelter to Soldier, but other animal and veteran charities. If they get it from Amazon, a few cents of profit is created. But if they get it from my website, I donate the entire purchase price of the book. They could even go, because I have a link to the charity at the top of the homepage. If they just make a donation of the cost of the book, I'll send the book out to them for free.
Oh, nice.
So, they obviously can't donate anonymously because I don't know who to give the book to.
Yeah.
But if they make a donation, they let me know that they've done it. I will send them the book for free.
So is part of your prosperity plan to also do philanthropic work? I mean, is that something that's icing on the cake, or is that something that you do at the same time you're trying to build wealth?
You can do it, and it doesn't have to be money. When I and my children were young, I didn't have a lot of money to donate to various charities, but what we did have was time. We would go and work in a soup kitchen, or we would take blankets and clothing and deliver them to homeless shelters. So even though we didn't have the money, we did other things. You could work at a food pantry. You could, volunteer at a school. You could volunteer to clean up the beach. There's all sorts of things you can do besides the money. But what I found are the people that are attracted to me are the people who have a desire to donate or support causes or charities that matter to them.
That's called the law of reciprocity, right? Is that what you're practicing? Is that what you're highlighting?
Yes, I don't use the term, but yes.
But that's the idea.
But that's what's happening. I mean, if you look at my 9-step road to complete financial choice, which people can get for free, go to my website and go to wealthonanyincome.com/TEDx. They'll see my TED Talk where I talk about how we've been programmed to believe it's better to be poor than to be wealthy. And the cure is the 9-step roadmap, which they can get for free. In that 9-step roadmap, it says the 9-step roadmap to complete financial choice and philanthropy.
Nice.
So the goal is to get people in a financial situation so they can donate to the causes that touch their heart.
Right. Very important.
Rennie, do you address any situations where one of the spouses is spending money without the other spouse knowing it? And is there a safe way to set up accounts? I'm not asking for myself. I was thinking of this recent murder out of Alabama or something, the Murdaugh family.
Oh, Murdaugh.
Yeah, where he was obviously addicted to drugs and was embezzling money from the firm and the family, and the wife, I'm assuming, had no idea about it. Now she can't even testify about it because he murdered her. But I'm just wondering, is there
he's
a
only
way
been
that you
convicted of it? He hasn't said he did it.
Yes, exactly. Is there a safe way to set up some sort of accounting system with these newly married couples so that they don't have to, so they can be accountable to each other, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, the difficulty that I've seen in situations like that is where one spouse has total responsibility and the other spouse wants no responsibility.
Right.
And that's how it shows up.
Because he was spending, I think I read reports that he was spending like $60,000 a week on narcotics.
Which is a reason you have to embezzle from the firm.
Yes.
Right. And for your spouse not to realize that money was just poofing away, it boggles the mind. But then again, it's like you said, if I don't care what he's doing with it, I have plenty for me, then whatever, right?
Right. And that's where things go wrong. So what I advise couples to do is to both be involved in the process. And I understand how one spouse doesn't want to be. As an example, my wife doesn't want to be, but I do require she at least knows all of the accounts we have, knows what the account balances are. And every once in a while, maybe a few times a year, she'll say, do I have enough money in my checking account? That's about as much involvement as I can get from her. And so I'll say, yes, you do. Let's go over it. So, I require that, but I can only go so far. So she does know. But the point is, other spouses aren't willing to know. And if you've got a spouse who's hiding what they're doing, they certainly don't want the spouse involved.
Right.
Right. And that leads to that kind of behavior, right? I mean, if you're not producing a family P&L statement, profit and loss statement, and reviewing it on like a monthly basis, that just opens the door for nefarious activity.
Oh, absolutely right. And one of the things that I realized, even in our household, and this is a confession on my part, I used to use a little spending register that I would provide to my clients for them to use. And, I see your cat stretching in the background, the one who messed with your knobs.
Right.
He's there every week. It's just amazing. Every Tuesday at 10 a.m. That's where he parks. Of course.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, oh, do I have ADHD? Can I not? Anyway, so the spending register. I have the spending register where I would track all the money that flows out of my hands, like into the parking meter, into the grocery store, or whatever. I don't put down the mortgage payment because that's just once a month and that's it. But the money that leaks out, I track. Well, after 10 years, I decided I could stop this practice. I've got a handle on it. I've got my wealth. I don't need to track anymore. Then I got involved in a new business online. And I thought, I got a good feel for what I'm spending. And I said to my assistant, she asked me some question. I said, yeah, well, I've probably spent about $120,000 on my education in this area. She says, no, Rennie, I think it's much more than that. I said, nah, I don't think it is. Well, I decided to do the research and see what I've spent on the various programs, and the masterminds, and the coaching. It wasn't $120,000. You might have guessed that. I wasn't tracking it in my spending register. You want to take a guess as to what it was?
Oh, that can get pretty spendy. I'm going to say $500,000.
You're pretty close, Todd. It was
Wow.
$400,000.
Wow.
It was over three times what I thought was spent. Why? Because I wasn't tracking it.
Well, and you didn't realize too that you had probably what it was that you were getting from those kinds of things already, right? Yeah.
I mean, I'd spent $25,000 on a mastermind that I really didn't get $25,000 of value from.
Exactly.
And so, but the key here really is the consciousness required so that these things don't happen. And that spending register brings back the consciousness of where the money's going. Whether I'm spending $300 to eat out or I'm spending $3,000, as it's being spent, I know what's going on.
Well, and that goes back to what we were talking about in the very beginning with reconciliation, right? Are you calling your spending register actual reconciliation, or does it go deeper?
It goes a little bit deeper from the standpoint of when I'm spending money, I'm also asking questions. And that's the key to changing behavior. I'm asking questions like, is this expenditure taking me toward my goals or away from my goals?
Right.
Did I get the level of pleasure that I just paid for with this purchase? Is this money in alignment with my values? When you ask questions as you're spending money, then it's not just a reconciliation, it's an alignment with who you are and what you're trying to accomplish.
That sounds like a lot of work.
I'm
sure that I'm not the first one to think, oh, that just sounds like a lot of time and work.
I even had to do that with my Amazon purchases, Rennie, right? I've told myself now, okay, that looks really cool. And yeah, you could really use that, but you can't instantly buy it. You have to let it sit there, and then you come back and review it and then ask those questions, right? Is this something that I really need? Is this really going to benefit me? And am I going to be able to get pleasure? Or is it just going to go in the drawer and sit there forever?
Perfect, Todd. That's absolutely the best way to do it. You wait 24 hours, you go back to it and see if you feel the same way. Now, I'll give you a funny example. About 5 years ago, 2018, I'm looking at my motorcycle. Now, I'd rather spend gasoline to put into a motorcycle than a car. I don't like being in a car. I'm in Los Angeles, the traffic's horrible. I'd rather be on a motorcycle. But my motorcycle at the time was 24 years old. It had over 100,000 miles on it.
You ride a lot.
Yeah, I use it instead of a car. And the last time I took it to the mechanic, he was saying, it's getting hard to find the parts for this thing. I don't know if the next time something breaks down, I'm going to be able to find the parts. So I started looking at a new bike. And I didn't like the new ones. And so I didn't buy anything. But I realized I should get a newer one because the next one I buy is probably going to be my last one at my age.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I started looking again in December. And I found a 2018 that was for sale that only had 2,000 miles on it.
Wow.
5 years old, it's got 2,000. And I'm thinking, well, let me think about it. And I did. And 3 months later, I actually bought it.
That's a long time to think about it.
Yeah, because I didn't want to give up the old one. I wasn't ready to pull the trigger. But the point is, I did what you did, Todd. I didn't jump on it instantly. And 3 months later, it was still available. And I got it. So now, right now I have two. I will sell the old one, but it's raining here in Los Angeles. There's no point advertising it now. Who's going to want to see it? And so, but at some point I will. What I'm getting at is I took the time. I didn't jump on it. I waited. And the funny thing is, I told you back in 2018, I was looking at a new one.
That's the bike.
It's 5 years later, I bought a 2018.
Wow.
And it actually had 1,955 miles.
It was broken, just waiting for you.
Exactly.
But you like it now?
It has an automatic transmission. I'm having to get used to that.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Change, right? That's the other part of this, Rennie, is change. We have to change habits. We can't order in food, and if we're trying to save money or see where our money's going, that's a big one I heard you talking about earlier today is how many times a week do you order in food, right? It's become so easy for us to do, and it is so expensive. Yes, and it benefits certain people, like my grandson who's driving DoorDash. And it's and other people, they're spending the money and wasting it and not even getting the quality of food that nourishes their body. They're getting it from, McDonald's or Burger King or whatever.
So we're heading into a recession. This is what a lot of people say, if we're not already there.
Jackie, bite your tongue.
I happen to believe we're there, but so how does the average person who doesn't have a great knowledge about handling money and saving and that kind of thing, how do they get through a situation like a recession? What advice would you give someone?
They obviously have to really evaluate where the money is going. It's difficult. I'm going to touch on the three things that Todd mentioned early in the show in terms of the three secrets. And they're the three secrets of the wealthy. And we've been talking about attitude. So we're going to come back to that. Okay. We've talked about the forms people use, the cash flow form and a balance sheet and stuff like that.
Tools, right? Those are tools.
That's correct. And then we talked about the third thing, which is investments. Where can the money go? So we covered the three secrets. I just want to let people know we did cover those three secrets: attitude, forms, and investments, AFI. Which has nothing to do with the American Film Institute. Okay. So getting back to, if it's a recession, if people they're paying maybe $100, $200 a month for satellite TV, they may end up having to cut the cord and just stream what they can stream on the computer.
Mm,
So it's not easy when you get to a certain standard of living on what you want to give up.
yeah.
A two-car family doesn't say, well, we'll get rid of one of the cars, but that's what they might have to do. Or they're living in a large house, maybe they need to downsize, or a large apartment, maybe they need to downsize. They're hard things to do, but they are available.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah.
the answer to what do you do in a recession? If
You
your
make hard decisions.
income is going to be impacted,
Yeah.
they're
Well, it
just,
just came to mind because you were talking about the price of groceries. And I mean, I've noticed in almost every instance when I'm buying something now, it's costs more, but you're getting so much less than you used to get.
Shrinkflation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The manufacturers, yeah, they said instead of buying a 12-ounce package, you're getting a 10-ounce package, but it's only a few cents more.
It's the pizzas I noticed, right? The pizzas that come in the box, right? They used to be that big and now they're that big.
Well, it makes you wonder how much money it cost the company to downsize all the manufacturing portion of that. It had to cost them money to do that. So why would they do that? Why wouldn't they just raise the price a little bit and continue with the same amounts they were always doing? It doesn't.
Well, because it's easier to fool the public.
The full job, yeah.
Yeah, but is it more expensive to fool the public? I guess is my question.
Well, in the long run, no, because and the money that they may have to spend to downsize the packaging and all the rest of that stuff, they'll make it up in the volume.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not worried about the large companies
No.
manufacturing the food going out of business anytime soon. Yeah,
No.
it's the households that are going to be struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. And the rent increases and
And the rent
hard
increases.
to find homes. Now, so you still own a lot of real estate. Are they single family homes or are they mostly apartment buildings, duplexes, that kind of thing?
They're mostly apartment buildings. I have a bias against single family homes as real estate investments because it involves the psychological factors like, gee, what's the paint job like? What's the flow of the house like? Who are your neighbors? What's the landscaping like? That's not what I'm into. With an apartment building, the value is based on the rents. It's just a multiplication factor. It's called the gross rent multiplier. If your rents are $100,000 a year and you're in an area where the gross rent multiplier is 10, that building's worth $1 million. 10 times 100,000. If I increase the rents by $10,000 over the year and I multiply that by 10, I've just increased the value of the building by $100,000. Now, I will have to admit, I'm not that kind of landlord. My assistant just came to me and said, Rennie, the utility costs on your building have outpaced your rent increases.
Wow.
Where I used to figure about $90 to $100 per unit for utilities, she showed me it's currently $278 per unit.
That's crazy.
And my rent increases were over the same time period, 30%. So my rent has gone up 300, my utility costs gone up 300%, and my rents have only gone up 30%.
So are you going to adjust that or are you going to be the nice guy?
I'm adjusting it as much as my heart is willing.
Yeah, it's tough, but you can't pay them to live there for free, right? You have to be able to cash flow on it or it's not worth doing.
Exactly. And so I created a long letter. I'm including a spreadsheet that shows how our utility costs have changed. And so rather than giving 1% and 2% rent increases, it's going to be 5%.
Do you have most of your units filled or are you finding that it's hard to get renters right now?
I operate at 100% occupancy year in and year out because of the quality of tenants and how I take care of them. And they appreciate that. And 100% of my tenants through the entire pandemic paid 100% of their rent.
Oh, nice.
There was only one exception, and she applied for the government program. They reimbursed the shortage, and then she moved. So again, 100% of my tenants I received 100% of my rent through the entire pandemic because I take care of my tenants.
Nice.
And that has a lot to be said for as well. Oh my goodness, my friends, we only have about 5 or 6 minutes left. Rennie, is there anything else that we missed? I think we talked about your three tools or
Three secrets of the wealthy.
3 secrets of the wealthy. Is there anything else that we missed or anything else you would like to highlight?
Only just to remind people, they can get a free copy of the book if they make a donation at the top of the wealthonanyincome.com website to Shelter to Soldier. And if I send you the link for the GoFundMe for this family that we're supporting, would it be okay to post that on your Facebook page?
Jackie,
We can put that in the blog for you.
Jackie, I'll put it in
Terrific.
the
Thank
blog.
you. I'll send you that link.
I think we already have that link, and that's something we really didn't talk about. Maybe in the last couple of minutes is the philanthropy. I'm going to have a hard philanthropic. I have a hard time with that word. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Aspects of what it is that you do, because we talked about the law of
Reciprocity.
reciprocity. I'm all but you give 100% of the profits, not the income, but the profits. How does that work? Maybe explain to us a little bit how that works.
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because people say, wait a second, how could you stay in business if you're giving away 100% of the profits? It's simple. Because of the real estate investments and other investments I have personally that generate all the income I need to live and more, I don't need the income from my business, so that I can donate 100% of that to the animal and veteran charities.
The profits. And there's a difference between profit, because obviously you would cover the cost of creating the book and writing the book. That's all covered. It's the excess, the profit left over that you donate.
Exactly. In other words, I pay the fees to host the website. I pay for a virtual assistant. Yeah. After those costs are covered, I donate all the rest.
Cool. Well, thank you for doing that. So this GoFundMe then is separate though from the charity that you typically.
Right. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. You've taken a homeless person under your wing. This is great leadership by example. Give us a brief rundown of what it is that you're doing and how people can help.
So we've set up a GoFundMe to help with her housing and her school costs. Again, she's enrolled in nursing school now. She just got her first paycheck like a week ago, but she's got a huge hole to dig out of for the months where she was struggling and had no place to live and was doing hotel vouchers and living in and out of a shelter with her 5-year-old daughter. But now she's getting back on her feet, but she has a huge hole to dig out of. So far, I've given her my car to use. So she was driving for DoorDash and working for FedEx from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. to try and make ends meet. So this is a hard working woman. She's 25 years old. I don't know, young girl, woman, mother, whatever. And so she's just a wonderful human being that my wife and I are helping. So we've set up this GoFundMe page for her. And yes, I'll send that link to you. Any amount of a donation directly to that is welcome. Doesn't matter if it's $10, $100. It's going to someone who can use a hand up. This is not a handout.
Yeah, nice. Cool. Thank you.
Very cool. You can find more information by signing up for our newsletter, or go to today's show page at www.lifemasteryradio.com, and all the links that we talked about will be right there. They'll be on the Facebook page. Check out our YouTube channel. All of the shows that Jackie and I do end up on YouTube. They end up on our YouTube channel, and you can share them, review them. There are many of them. There's a whole plethora of our past shows up there with great thoughts and ideas that will interest you. Rennie, thank you so much for showing up as you today and sharing your great thoughts and ideas. Namaste, my friend. It's just really cool. You figured it out, mister. You have figured it out.
And
Yes.
you're sharing it with us. Thank you.
And thank you for the opportunity to share what I learned.
Yeah. Well, it was great to have you back. And it was serendipitous that we ran into each other in LA.
I
So
know. Hey,
it's hard to know how many people you've inspired and helped today. So we appreciate it.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Todd.
namaste again, my friend. That's about all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. My biggest hope is that you will tell a friend about the show and how cool it is that this Todd and Jackie just bring on some really cool guests to talk about really cool things that are definitely going to make a difference in my life, especially my life mastery journey. Lastly, please, please, please make it a great day, because it is all about choice. Choose to check out your money and choose to check out our YouTube channel. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
And we're done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And as soon
Thank you for tuning in to Life Mastery Radio. Join Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific. Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery through stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Visit their website, www.lifemasteryradio.com. Join their mailing list and be notified about upcoming guests. That's lifemasteryradio.com.